Penn Live's wrestling podcast is back. It's Thursday, January 22nd. Bob Flounders with Jim Carlson. We're both pretty cold, and I think if you're listening or watching this, and you know what we're talking about ahead of what's coming this weekend. Everyone stay safe. You know who is not safe this weekend? Anyone wrestling Penn State. See what I did there, Jim?
That was very good, Bob.
Transition. We have a lot to get to here on this podcast. Penn State is home. Allegedly, they're going to wrestle twice. We'll see. Against some teams they should push around pretty easily. There's a lot to get to with what Penn State has done just in the 2026 year. We got to talk about what happened to Iowa out in Iowa City. But my highlight of this podcast, which is going to be all about Penn State, Jimmy. We got a cookie review coming at the end of the show. If you listened or watched last week, we talked about Cael Sanderson's cookie, aptly titled Cael's Cookie, a healthy alternative for people who want to enjoy a nice treat, stay fit, and then continue to wrestle and then win 800 matches in a row. I think that's the number Penn State has done. But Jimmy, you've gotten a real up-close look at this 80-match winning streak, right? Is it 80 and counting now?
It is.
80 and counting. You've had a great seat to this. I think you have some thoughts before we get to the weekend about just what they were able to do to Iowa last weekend in Iowa City. I mean, 32-3. It could have been a shutout, worst home loss in Iowa history, Jimmy, and you could tell it was bad because if you listen to Brands' post-game video, he was wound up and I think also embarrassed. But can we just start there and what Penn State has been able to do over the course of this winning streak, all the championships? But where do you rank this Iowa win as far as things that you've seen with this Penn State wrestling team?
It's a fair question. I mean, Iowa is not the Iowa of old. Still very competitive, still has some studs, but not nearly balanced like a Penn State has, like Ohio State has this year, like Ohio or Oklahoma State is striving for this season as well. But, you go out there and it's still a good win no matter what. And it was interesting because it was not a sellout. There were well over 12,000, but it holds a couple thousand more than that. So it's interesting that match didn't sell out this time. The key to that was all of the close bouts that they won. There were 6 close bouts, 1 or 2 points, and Penn State won 5 of them. And the one they didn't win, Braden Davis, I really think he was caught by surprise. He was standing straight up when Nasir Bailey went after him, and he converted an easy takedown there. And Davis went on to ride him out, got a stall call. I do think the next time they wrestle Big Tens maybe could be different. Mitchell Messenbring wrestled Mikey Caliendo for the 7th time in their careers in 2 years, really. And, he's talking about it on Tuesday, and he said it's like so you have to make it a game. The two have never spoken, but they know a lot about each other. And an interesting concept that wrestlers are wrestlers, and that even though he's won all 7, there's no animosity, and that if anything ever happened to, the end of the world, he would want guys like that with him, fighting those wars. So.
Mitchell was one of the better interviews I've ever stumbled across. Just his perspective, big picture. You never know what he's going to draw into.
Philosophical.
His answer. It's a very, very thoughtful guy that I think that I'll be curious to see what he does, what he's done, if he's ever done wrestling, because he seems like he's got a lot of things figured out.
And he's marketing Kias up here on local TV. They call it, it's Mitchell drives a Kia.
Jimmy, and also just Brand's comments, and also Rocco Welsh in that. I think that was a pretty highly anticipated match there. I mean, it was obviously a defensive match, but I mean, like you said, they got all the bonus points, and they won just about all the close matches on the road, and 32-3. Jeez.
And 51-0, at Northwestern with 10 bonus point wins.
Yeah.
But yes, Welsh and Ferrari was, Ferrari goes on one knee, and he went down on one knee 32 times. Actually, Christian Powles from Flow counted, and he said he was on hhis knee for almost 2.5 minutes. And so you wonder where the offense comes from because he wasn't shooting, and that pretty much allowed or didn't allow Welsh to shoot either. So you knew one it was going to be destined for sudden victory. No takedowns in the first 2 minutes, and then Welsh rode him out, and then he escaped in the second period. So he earned that win, and there just wasn't offense to speak of. What Brand's point was throughout was his guys wrestled hard for 45 seconds a lot in the last 45 seconds of various bouts. He said, but he needed that for 7 minutes for in those bouts. This week he called it the biggest thing, he says, probably the Gable principle. It's always easier to move forward with success. I was going to Nebraska Friday, which should be a pretty good match.
Yeah.
Brand said this week, he said, we didn't have a lot of success, so it's going to take a little more resolve, a little more courage, or whatever the words you want to use while they're moving forward. And like I said, he said they're doing that. But he also said last Friday that he's had teams beaten up before, he says, but not like that. And so that was pretty revealing.
All right, it's the Penn Live Wrestling Podcast talking about Penn State. Don't forget, we got a cookie review coming up towards the end. I know Jim Carlson is literally licking his lips at the thought of that. Hopefully, Jimmy, you give it a pretty good review because you do have to cover Cael Sanderson, and you interview him quite a bit, so it could get awkward if you give it a thumbs down. So just keep that in mind. But Jimmy, they got Indiana Friday at home at Rec Hall, Maryland scheduled for Sunday, pending the weather that is almost certainly coming. It's Maryland, two teams that are not really anywhere close to somebody like the Iowa Hawkeyes. So it's 80 and counting. It's going to be 82 and counting if they get both matches in. But one of the things I wanted to circle back to with you was during Cael's availability earlier this week, he was asked about kind of sizing up the program, what they've done, how they continue to get better. And I think the wrestlers talked about it as well. And I think somebody used the term special sauce. I don't know. I can't remember who it was.
Mitchell.
But yeah. But when it comes to what Cael had to say about why Penn State is in the position that it is in, and also some of the wrestlers giving their thoughts, what stood out to you about maybe this week's availability?
Yeah, Travis Johnson asked a question. I'm sure you know Travis from the football beat.
Sure.
About why can't teams close the gap on Penn State? And, Cael pondered a bit and he said, well, basically his answer was we do have a special thing going here.
Yeah.
It's all about, and he's said this many times, about who he recruits, the high quality character of the kid, not necessarily the wrestler in the kid. And he says recruits know that, parents know that, the kids know that. He said team chemistry was good. PJ Duke and Messenbrink talked about the chemistry as well. Ask me about Duke here in a second. He had an interesting concept or comment about out in Iowa, but and Cael's main point, and like I said, he said this before as well. In the NIL era, that some of the kids on Penn State's roster could go elsewhere, be a starter, make a lot more money. But they choose to come to Penn State, he said, because they're motivated to be the best wrestler in the world. And he said he's always said he wants kids coming for the right reason. The kids know that, and the parents know that, and all. Like I said, that's just his philosophy. That once they get here, he wants them to be the best they can be. So Messenbrink was asked the same thing. He said there wasn't any secret sauce. And you just keep on doing the same things, focusing on the bigger picture in terms of getting ready for the next match and all that. So at the end, he said, it's not a crazy fable. And here's his philosophy. He pulls out a quote that I actually couldn't find who said it, but he says, extraordinary is just ordinary over and over again. So I'm thinking, who's going to argue with that, Bob? You know what I mean?
Sure, that's quite true, the more that I think about it, but I'm not going to argue with somebody who's accomplished as much as he has.
Yeah. So that was the thrust of that.
Yeah, so right now, as we talk about this, Penn State's got 6 wrestlers ranked number 1 at their weights, and there's only 10 weights, so that also explains a lot about why this Penn State team is where they are right now. They also, I think, have 8 unbeaten wrestlers, and a couple of them, I think both of them are freshmen, and they're not done climbing the ranks either. and one of them was made available for you to talk to, and that's what you're referring to on earlier this week, right?
PJ Duke, yes.
Yes.
You mentioned the unbeaten. So 8 unbeaten. Penn State starters are 109-3. Sixth ranked number one. I don't think Flo's ever ranked six guys at number one before
Yeah,
from
I think
from
that's a
one
first.
team. Duke, he said he got on the mat to warm up out in Iowa, and he said he looked at Marcus Blaze, fellow freshman, 133, and he said to Blaze, he goes, this is really happening. He said we're on Penn State, we wrestled for Penn State, and we're about to wrestle at Iowa, and they still look at that like that's sort of the thought of a young kid, even though they are, very established, very mature for their teenage years, right? But Duke, he wrestled Jordan Williams, a little rock transfer. It was close, but he got a snap down and a go behind takedown in the third period to win it. Basically, and a lot of Iowa guys did that. That Williams was on the defensive quite a bit, and he sort of had to chase him. But he said, there's always opportunities to score, and you just have to find them and take advantage, and that's what he did. But it's interesting, that he said that at the beginning that, this is really happening.
So I also think it's not funny, but so a lot of these guys that we're talking about that are freshmen here at Penn State are also experienced in international competition and have been in world elite competitions and have either won world championships or placed, and yet they think about being a freshman at Penn State wrestling in Iowa City against Iowa as a big deal when they've already wrestled all over the world. So I don't know if there really is a big stage for many of these guys anymore, and I think that definitely has to help them because I mean they've already wrestled in so many prestigious tournaments against prestigious opponents outside of the United States that I just don't think that you're ever going to get. Timid is not in the Penn State wrestling vocabulary. They're just very comfortable in their own skin. Man, that score though resonates, I think, with a lot of people. I think I was out and around this weekend in Harrisburg, and even people who don't closely follow the Penn State wrestling team were struck by that score and the significance of it and how easily they made that look. And it's just we've always called it a dynasty, and it certainly is, Jimmy. But it just seems like just when you think they can't top like what they did in March in Philadelphia, I mean, we're in mid-January and we're talking about something that really has never happened, and it's like probably the most humbling experience in Iowa wrestling history as well. So, like, I don't know that there is a ceiling to what
Right.
Penn State is doing, what this team is doing. They're confident, they're talented. And I bring all this up because when we talked before the podcast, you wanted to talk about a kid that probably could have went to Penn State, Jax Forrest, that's now at Oklahoma State, and you had some thoughts on him.
Well, he's enrolled. He left Bishop McCourt
Yeah.
early. He has wrestled one dual meet in which he had a fall in 47 seconds. And then he went to the Cyclone Open last weekend and won four matches, won the title. His first three, I mean, normal competition. He breezed through it. But his final match was against a Cuban national team member who's training at Iowa State, and he beat him 4-0. And David Taylor said this week that Forrest was just very patient, waited for his opportunity. So, but there's no word on whether Taylor's going to keep him in the lineup. My gut is that he will. Uh, but I sort of hope he does. I mean, 133 is already pretty loaded. 133, 157, the two freshmen at Penn State, those weight classes are very strong this year. But can you imagine the quarterfinals and the semifinals at Cleveland this year if Jax Forrest is in there? And with everyone else, Marcus plays for Penn State, Evan Frost, Iowa State. There's so many guys. Uh, and you know, Flo also threw out a little nugget this week about Melvin Miller.
Right.
No idea if this is true, and they really didn't either, but possibly skipping his entire senior year of high school next year and enrolling at Virginia Tech. He's committed, along with his brother, Bo Bassett, to Virginia Tech.
Uh-huh.
And so if he were to do that, he'd go with Bo. Tech has redshirted Aaron Seidel from Northern Lebanon.
Yeah.
He's PIAA champ, right? And the only they've got 7 freshmen they're wrestling now. Colin Guy from Quakertown, he's the only freshman in the lineup, but Tony Roby's building a powerful lineup in Blacksburg. And I want to see that with Virginia Tech, with Oklahoma State, with Iowa State's trying to do the same. Ohio State, certainly very strong this year. So there's a lot more balance. I think NIL has a lot to do with that. But it's still, then you look back at Penn State and you see that there's one senior, as we mentioned before, Levi Haynes, in the lineup, and only a couple on the team. I mean, Lucas Cochran and Levi. I'd have to look at the roster to see if there are any more. That's incredible that all these guys are going to be back next year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're redshirting a guy like Kasak and it's just
right.
It's crazy. So Jim, just from in case anyone's listening or watching can you just, if the weather is bad in State College on Sunday, is there a scenario in which the match could be postponed, or as long as Maryland's up there and they can get
it's at Maryland, Bob.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, so Penn State would have to leave on Saturday, which they do normally. So they easily would get to Maryland. It's whether they, I guess, want to, whether they want to stay an extra day and come back Monday, or if the storm's that bad, I don't know. It would be up to Maryland, I suppose, because Penn State would be able to get there. But then, Maryland would have to consider, well, nobody's going to come to the match if it's as bad in D.C. as they are projecting, right?
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be worse in D.C. maybe than it is in Pennsylvania. Really.
I think it might be, yes.
So what happens then if have you ever recall a match having to be rescheduled for weather?
I'm not sure I do, because when are you going to, well, let's see, Rutgers last year, now that was planned, it was a Monday. There had to be someone in there, I just can't remember. But yeah, do you put it in the middle of the week? I don't know. It's not vital. I mean, yes, you want to get your matches in for NCAA qualification and all.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's, Ohio State or anything like that, where you definitely want to wrestle them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what'll happen.
Sounds like it might be a Jim Carlson question for Cael Sanderson after Friday's match, or somebody might ask that. I would like to hear his take on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have thought about it by then, right?
Yeah, so he'll have all the contingencies built in, but I just wonder, is there any concern level, or is there some stuff we're not thinking about that he could kind of
there would have to be. And this weekend too, if Penn State has the same lineup, no reason to think otherwise, right? Barring late injury or illness or anything like that, which can happen at this time of the year. Yeah. But let's be realistic. I just don't see Indiana or Maryland scoring. I don't see them winning any bouts. That would be 7 shutouts in 11 matches and 18 shutouts during the 82 match winning streak after this weekend if that happens. Indiana's having a decent year. They've not been that good. They're 6-2.
Yeah.
Got Jacob Moran 125. Tough kid, but he draws Luke Littleroll, right?
Yeah.
They've got a kid named Sam Gwynn at 184. He draws Rocco Welsh. Maryland haven't had any luck at all. They've lost their stud Jackson Smith to an ankle injury. He's going to apply for a medical red shirt. But like Braxton Brown, 133, gets Marcus Blade, or Carter Young at 149, he's ranked 9th, gets Shane Van Ness, who's ranked number 1.
Yeah.
It looks like Penn State really could have post 2 more shutouts this weekend.
Well, let's hope the weather is as kind as it can be to everyone that plans on either going to these matches, or is on the teams, or is covering the teams, or because the weather people have done their best to scare the crap out of everyone in the United States about this coming storm. So I know everyone's nervous, and hopefully it won't be as bad as they say it's going to be. Much like wrestling, the Penn State team, usually it is as bad as you think it's going to be, so we'll see. Jimmy, I think we're about at the point of this Penn Live Wrestling podcast where I don't know if you've ever done a cookie review.
I can tell you I have.
Well, I guess it's only the second year of the Penn Live Wrestling podcast, or a video, but I think it is time to give the people what they want. I know you're a tough grader. I also know you have to talk to Cael a bunch of times, and it's a Cael cookie. You've gotten your hands on one. I can hear the wrapper crinkling. So let me get out of the way. You need to say what you need to say, and I expect a fair and honest review.
Well, first of
Cael's
all,
cookie.
let's set the record straight about last week when we talked about this cookie, because I had mentioned that I'd had a cookie in his office in September, but I said it was generically wrapped, and I really didn't think it was the Cael's cookie, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was not. So
Oh.
I have not had this before.
So what did you get? Like a watered down version of the Cael's cookie, or what was that you
No,
ate?
I just think it was something he just offered. I mean, it was something
All
he
right.
was snacking on
We apologize,
because it
Cael.
was about that big. It was.
All right, hold up the wrapper.
Yes, this is very large.
I'm surprised it's not. Is that blue? Is that in black and white or blue and white?
It's sort of a dark gray.
Yeah, I'm
Looks like
surprised it's not. I guess maybe they ran into some issues if they would have made it blue and white. But anyway.
chocolate chip. Okay,
All right.
you're getting me crumbs on my keyboard here.
Or in your mustache. Or in your mustache.
But a nice little bite here.
That's
All right,
it's a good looking cookie.
very soft,
This is like the Dave Portnoy pizza reviews on Barstool Sports. I love it.
chewy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a no sugar, bit of an aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a sweet aftertaste, but very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
The chips don't really stand out. Let's try it again, Bob.
Yeah. I've seen you eat, Jimmy. I don't know why you're holding back. Like, you're taking awfully small bites. That's not the Jim Carlson I know. So knock it off.
Yeah, I can see why people would want these.
What's the? Can you read
Biggest-
some of the? Can you read some of this? Do they have like the calories on it or anything like that in the back, or did you already throw that thing out? It's like 400 calories.
420 calories, Bob.
No, but it's a pretty sizable cookie.
It is. It is. This is where I wear glasses, right? Because this is pretty type small. Total fat, 27%. Saturated fat, 50%. Let's get into the good stuff. Cholesterol, only 9%. Sodium, 10%. Borderline there, right? Total carbs, 19. Diet, 21%.
Uh-oh.
Total sugars, whoa, includes added sugars, 58%.
58%. All right.
Clearly, it's healthy sugars, right?
Let's hope so.
Vitamin D, potassium, niacin, magnesium. Bob, it's got it all. All right. So
It does have it all. The only thing we should have done is we should have had you get in like a singlet and eat the cookie.
Nobody wants to see that,
Probably would have. We probably would have got, I don't know, 7 million. We'd be in the millions for.
FCC would have had us off the air on that one.
So overall, I mean, we don't really know what a lot of those numbers mean as long as they're healthy. What's your thoughts on the cookie and whether or not you think that Penn State fans would thoroughly enjoy them as a snack?
Well, my problem is I have a sweet tooth, so I can handle it. I don't eat a lot of sweets breakfast or lunch, but at dinner, after dinner, look out. And I could see myself eating one of these after lunch and not feel overloaded. I think was the purpose of it, that they could eat these after a weigh-in, not have it hang in their stomach and go out and mad and have a little energy.
All right. And honestly,
I'm headed to the gym after this, so it's what it did.
honestly, if Cael's endorsing it, I mean, I think we got to give him a huge benefit of the doubt because he hasn't done much wrong since he's become a wrestler, and every button he's pushed has been right. So if he says it's good for you and he says it's going to make you feel better, I mean, I think we got to believe him. And it sounds like you're still licking your lips, Jim. So I think you did enjoy Cael's cookie.
I did, yes.
All right. Before we get out of here, one more thing to add. After these two, they still have huge home matches. Ohio State, Nebraska, correct? Down the line.
Nebraska, Friday the 30th. Ohio State, Friday the February 13th.
All right. Everyone stay safe this weekend. Stay out of the cold. Make sure you have your shovels, snow plows, salt.
Bread and milk, Bob. Bread and milk.
Bread and milk. I mean, if you haven't been to the beer distributor yet, you might want to do that now. You might have trouble getting out over the weekend when you're watching Penn State wrestling. But that's it for this edition of the Penn Live Wrestling Podcast. The highlight of my week was Jim Carlson's Cael's Cookie review. I thought he played it on the up and up. We gave out all the ingredients, and I think Jimmy's going to give it a thumbs up. Oh, there it is.